Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Bears on Tap, a podcast about the Chicago Bears presented to you by On Tap Sportsnet. I'm your host, Brandon Suarez. You can follow me on Twitter at BDon300, and today I'm joined by my co-host Quentin. We're going to be recapping this afternoon's shit show of a game, probably one of the ugliest games in recent Bears memory. Quentin, I'll go with you first, man. How are you today?
I'm tired, man. That game was exhausting to watch and watch in detail and yeah, that was rough. That's about the only way I can put it. That was just rough.
Yeah, and they weren't scoring points. They settled for field goals. The play calling in the red zone was terrible. They weren't able to stop Daniel Jones. The list goes on and on. And then when you think the bleeding is finally going to stop, you get to the end, Velus Jones fumbles. And it's like,
Yeah.
fuck, dude. Not that, if we were to not have a fumble there, were we going to win the game? Maybe, probably not. Like, you still need a lot. You need a touchdown and you need a 2-point conversion. But again, as we like to say on the show, it's the hope that keeps you coming back, right?
Yeah.
And we've seen this team look like an absolute shitbox team all game before and go out and win games. And it wasn't like Justin Fields played horribly. It wasn't that the offense as a whole like couldn't move the ball because they were moving the ball, right? But between the 20s, maybe not even between 20. Maybe we'll say like 20 to the 40, and then they're punting the
Yeah.
ball. And two, at the end of the game, I know you said you didn't hate the decision, but the sad punt was awful. I know we still got the stop and we didn't lose much time, but could you imagine if we just score, or we didn't score, but we just get a first down and attempt to score as opposed to having to get a stop and then going back to a punt, especially seeing how special teams played such a big factor in this game already.
Yeah. I mean, so to me, I don't have an issue with the punt as much as I have an issue with you running up the middle on third down. Like you're running up the middle on second down. Like what are you doing here? If you're not in 4 down territory, why are you running it up the middle on these downs? Why aren't you taking some chances to get downfield? You're down 8. There's a very real chance that you need 2 scores because you're going to need a 2-point conversion to even tie it. So the punt, I mean, I can see why you'd be upset about it. I can see why it'd be okay. To me, the real issue at hand is the play calling decisions there on that series and earlier in the game in the red zone. But specific to that series, it was just if you're that conservative, you have to be throwing on fourth down. Like you have to be going for it on fourth down. I mean, the Giants stacked up the box for that third down attempt. They knew what was coming. There was no question they knew what was coming. I knew what was coming. And just for fun, I was watching how like if they just had a tight end leak out, how open he would be and whether Fields would have the time. Fields would have had and obviously this is all conjecture because they did hand it off. So we don't know what it would look like if they'd done play action there with the tight end leaking out. But Fields would have had the time based on what we could see, that everyone was crashing down to stop the inside run. Use that to your advantage. Why are you just running it up the middle to get stuffed on whatever it was, like 3rd and 5 or something like that? Like just be a little smarter with it. That's some variety, some unpredictability. We talked so much on our last show about how unpredictability wins in the NFL on offense. We're not at all unpredictable. We're very predictable.
Yeah, and honestly, it was funny too because as I was watching the last play of the game, I'm like, "Wow, this might be our best offensive play of the game, right?" Like everybody's
Yeah.
getting involved. I saw Tevin Jenkins with a catch, like all that, and I'm like sitting there thinking I can hear our voices, and I'm like, "Yeah, when the backyard bullshit begins, that's when we start doing better." And it's just like like you said, too predictable. You know that we're just going to continue to hand the ball off. And then when we drop back to pass, we don't have someone that commands that, like a double team, or commands like an overwhelming presence in the secondary to stop us. And then too, it's like the blocking breaks down. Fields did a great job running the ball today. I will commend him on that. He was very decisive, and the runs that he did have usually ended up being positives. But I think it stems like from the coaching, right? You have to call a better game. Put your players. It's the same shit that we've talked about for the last 4 years with that guy that we will not name. Put your
Yeah.
players in the best position to win. And when you're just jamming it into the back of your center and jamming it into your guard, playing and play out, and throwing the ball less than 5 yards away from the line of scrimmage, you can only do so much. The broadcast did a great job at talking about, like, well, Bears fans, Giants fans, get ready, because you're basically going to be in 15 more of these games for the rest of the year, unless you play against
Yeah.
the Bills, in which you'll just get absolutely clapped. So, not wrong in that aspect, but like, fuck, man. This year was supposed to be about, we want to see what we have in Justin Fields, and let's get the young players better. And right now, we just kind of have been treading water, and we are now 2-2, which we've had opportunities to be 3-1. I won't say 4-0, because, like, as much as I love this team, like, they probably just weren't going to beat the Packers.
Yeah.
But you hate to see a game that was as winnable as was today's game, and you just cannot get out of your own way. It's fucking sickening.
Yeah. I mean, so I just pulled it up for that last series to make sure I was right. So they ran the ball 3 times and passed it once on a quick little wide receiver screen to Darnell Mooney. So they never really dropped back once in that final series. It was 3 runs and 1 pass that was an extension of the run game. I mean, and that's just, it's too conservative if you're trying to win.
Yeah, and I think too, on the defensive side of the ball, we can't ask for much more of them, right? Like, yeah, you can say what you say about them giving up as many yards, but Quentin, 20 points in an NFL game, right? You should have a chance to win the game at the end of it, right? If you only
Yeah.
give up 20 points, anytime you
Yeah.
play a game, you should have opportunities. And I think moving forward for this offense, you have to expand the playbook. We're going into week 5. We're going to be playing against a Minnesota team that, in the same breath of this sentence, also can't get out of their own fucking way. They don't look good at all. Again, we're going to get up and do the same thing next week and get ready and convince ourselves that we're going to win that game. But right now, my biggest concern with this team is that by like the middle of the season, the offense is just going to continue to go on like that downward spiral and just continue to get worse, or even just stay at the same level. Like, I don't see them getting better in any way.
Yeah. I mean, I guess a saving grace for next week is that the Vikings will be jet lagged coming back from London. So that opens all types of opportunity. But
Never been
looking
to
at
London,
this
yeah.
from the first series of the second half, the first drive, Bears went 60 yards, kicked a field goal. From that moment on, they only achieved 1 first down from that field goal on. So 1, 2, 3, 4,
You're talking
4
about
more
the second-
drives.
in the second
in
half?
the second half.
Jesus
Their last 4
Christ.
drives, not including the last play or the last drive, it was 3 plays, but not including that, because that was, against prevent defense and weird, end of game play. 4 drives, 1 first down. Like, they were not aggressive. And if they were aggressive, they weren't executing.
Yeah.
Which is just a stark change from the first half, where they went 65 yards field goal, 77 yards field goal, 53 yards fumble, -5 yards punt, and
That
then
fumble drive was a killer. The Fields fumble
13 yards field goal. Yeah, that
sucked.
that did suck. I mean, it's on him. You know, he
Yeah,
lost the ball,
you got to get
eh, but the pressure was right in his face
I was sitting
right
there
after the
too.
snap too.
And I'm just like, in my head, I'm saying like, let this be a defining moment for you, right? Like before the final drive of the game, like before they went 3 and out, just
Yeah.
fucking punted it. I was about to tweet it too. I'm glad I didn't, but like we'll keep that in this giant cranium of mine. But yeah, like that's just what we want to see. We want to see that like that game winning drive, that type of moment where it's like Justin Fields is my fucking quarterback as the sirens go driving by. But like we need to see him make plays in pressure moments. And when you're not getting the right play calls, even into the huddle in those situations, you're shit out of luck. You have no
Yeah.
chance. Like, you literally have no chance. You're already at a disadvantage and a handicap because of what plays are being brought into the huddle. And now you're expected to go out there and make chicken salad out of chicken shit. And
Yeah.
it just one guy that I do think did look good on the offense as well today was Kari Blasingame. I love his
Yeah.
usage. Just
He
fucking bulldozing people.
just destroying people, man.
Yeah.
He's their efficiency is way up when he's on the field. It's clear and it's fun to watch. Like he makes guys feel it when he blocks him, and I think he deserves a shout out for that. Like
Yeah. No,
he's that power fullback style is something that's fun to watch, and
we
he
love a
makes
good
it fun to
fullback.
watch.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I mean tight end position, Cole Kmet, did not do too great today. Wesco can't ask too much of him. I'm pretty sure that was his NFL debut today. So
Yeah.
I think he had
Yeah,
like a
he had the
catch or
one
two.
nice catch, and then he had a drop. So they kind of negate each other, I think. But and
Yeah.
I like that catch was nice that he had. The ball was a little off him, but um, he made a play for his quarterback, which is something that we can't say that many guys have done.
Exactly.
But I've seen enough wide receiver screens on third and long, or tight end screens on third and
Yeah, I
long.
was going to say, wait, wide receiver screens. We also do tight end screens too.
Yeah. I mean, so the first tight end screen they ran, it worked. You know, it was nice, and they went back to it 3 more times on third downs, and it's just like, why?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
it
and then
works the
there
first
was
time. That doesn't mean it
one
works every time. You just keep doing it over and over and over. It's perplexing. Like it sucks.
there was one in like the third or the fourth quarter that like they didn't even get the pass off. That's how quick the Giants were like, yeah,
Yeah.
we already know what fucking play you're calling right here. So one guy especially that needs to get the shout out. I wanted to see him get in the end zone today, but Darnell Mooney. I mean,
Yeah.
talk about a very rough start to the season after the highest expectations going into any season that he's had in his NFL career, right? Like the
Yeah.
expectations were huge for Mooney, probably looking at another 1,000-yard season. His opportunity to step up as that number one receiver in the NFL. Now, in his defense, he also is handicapped by not only one thing, but two things: the quarterback play and the play calling. They're
Yeah.
not doing a great enough job at scheming him open. And today they got him more open. He was able to make plays. I think he was either at like 90
About
or
100
100 yards.
yards.
Yeah, right
Yeah.
around 100 yards.
I ended up having to start him in fantasy because Keenan Allen and Hunter Renfro were both not playing. So,
Uh-oh. Yeah, I started Herbie today because Miles Sanders made me irrationally angry last week. And of course, Miles Sanders has a fucking masterclass, and Herbie just had like he had a decent game, but like
yeah,
when you start a running back, you start a running back for the sole reason of them getting in the end zone, and then when they
Yeah.
don't, it's tough. But other than that, on offense, I would say there was some that like maybe just the old football guy in me kind of got pissed off at towards the end of the game, but it was like I want to say it was the last time we got stopped right before we punted the ball at the end of the game. And if you look closely, you'll see it on the all 22. It didn't look like EQ, Equinemius St. Brown, really sold out on his block, like on that play. I'm sure you might maybe remember that play because I know that would probably piss you off too. But he was like in the slot on a dude that there's no chance is a real NFL player. Like the Giants have the most people in the NFL or the most players on their team of any NFL team that I have never fucking heard of. And I watch immense amounts of football. Like I was just sitting there like, who is this guy and who is that guy? Their punter looks like he'd be the lead singer in an 80s leather fucking band. Like
Well, the Giants podcasters are sitting there looking at the Bears roster saying
the exact same thing. Yeah.
they got Joe Thomas and Lamar Jackson. This team's stacked.
Yeah. No. Yeah. What a weird game. And just the state of maybe how the NFL is right now, like kind of top heavy. You have your Giants, like that, not the actual Giants, but like the Chiefs, the Bucks, the Rams, the teams that are contenders year in and year out. You have your middle of the pack teams that maybe like the Titans and the Eagles and stuff like that could go to the playoffs or also could go 6-11. Then you have the rest of the pack, which is teams like us, where it's like we usually go 6-11, and then we'll have that one playoff year sprinkled in, and then we'll just go back to doing what we're good at, going 6-11. So,
I mean, I don't think the recipe's changed for success in the NFL. You need a few true blue chip guys.
Yeah.
One at quarterback, really, and then a few like maybe a wide receiver, a corner, an edge rusher, something like that. And then you need quality depth everywhere else.
Yeah, like right now
the roster's full of guys who no one knows who they are, don't tend to be that good because you rely a lot on your depth in the NFL.
Yeah.
A lot. I mean, we're playing our second string Sam linebacker. Our rookie cornerback is being forced to play nickel and outside. We're starting multiple rookies on the defense. Our number one cornerback is out. So our number 3 guy is now our number 1. It just the depth matters a lot in the NFL because everyone gets banged up. Everyone gets injured. Having guys who are middle of the road players is depth versus your starters being those middle of the road players is a big difference.
Yeah, and I think you'll like just when you look at the rosters of those teams that we just mentioned, like look at the Bills, like some of their like Gabriel Davis would come in and be the number 1 receiver on our team without a shred of doubt in my mind. You know what I'm saying? Like stuff like that. And one person we'll switch over to the defensive side of the ball. I mean, it goes without being said. Eddie fucking Jackson is so back, baby. And I could not be more excited about it. Like that was literally the Willie Mays like basket catch interception. I like went off the screen right there. That was terrible. But yeah, that was.
Man, I just been sitting here pounding the table that he never left for the last 2 years. So he's just being forced. They're funneling the attention towards him now. They're funneling the attention towards him. Where in the last few years, they just didn't throw at him. They just were like, oh, he's got deep half over there. I'm going the other half. They were just avoiding him like hell.
Yeah, now, too, he's making those plays and creating turnovers. They said during the broadcast, 4th turnover in 4 games. So on pace for 17 turnovers this season. I don't make these numbers up. This is just math. This is how it works. But I tried to manifest the Eddie Jackson pick 6 on the timeline.
I do think there's a little bit of a factor here that it's essentially a contract year for him because if the Bear he's very cuttable.
Yeah.
After this year, and so it's either he's playing for his existing contract next season or he's playing for a new contract next season. One of the two. It makes it essentially a contract year for the guy.
Yeah, and I think if Eddie Jackson wants to be a Bear for life, let's make Eddie Jackson a Bear for life, right?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we? He's given us everything. He came in as a 4th-round pick, and expectations were high if you watch college football because you knew what type of player he was. But, we have nobody to blame but ourselves for comparing the man to fucking Ed Reed after he barely had a cup of coffee in the NFL, right? That's our fault, not his fault. So, other players on the defense that I thought played well today, I think obviously this another one that goes without being said, but Roquan Smith, another guy, ironically, just like you said with Eddie, contract year. And The one thing I will say is I did have a laugh when Tyrod Taylor just obliterated the B button on Roquan, and I'm like, pulls us up in the press box laughing right now. Like 20 million? Yeah, okay, buddy.
Yeah.
He's gonna get in the fucking negotiations room, and he's gonna be like, yeah, I'm gonna need you to turn the lights off. Cut the film. It's just gonna be him getting spun like a dreidel by Tyrod Taylor.
So I will say that was the one negative play I had from Roquan.
And we're
that
good.
Was the one mark. That was the one black eye on his score sheet today. And I had him marked down for 7+ plays. That's a pretty solid ratio. He's starting to fit the run a lot better. Like it was noticeable last week. In week 1 and 2, he looked like he might have been a little lost, sitting out training camp and new system, new defense, completely new responsibilities. And he wasn't looking the same. But these last 2 games, he looks a lot more like the guy that we've come to know.
Yeah, and too, if you've seen the pregame videos like that they do of them in the tunnel and warming up, like he's got that grin back. He lost.
Yeah.
Remember when we talked about the orange jersey reveal, and I was like, look into that man's eyes. Like he does not want to be here. He does not want to be taking these stupid social media pictures with the new jerseys. When I saw the picture of Roquan in the tunnel today, and then you saw that like same energy, you can just imagine him. Like, you know how like your head kind of gets choked out by your helmet when you wear it?
Yeah.
Just like mushed up, but just like still grinning, like, I got you, bitch, like tackles you. But Roquan is another guy, man, that is what we grew up watching, that type of player, right? Sideline to sideline linebacker, leader on your defense. And someone that, again, like I said with Eddie Jackson, I want to see be a Bear for life. But let's get into the not so pretty on the defensive side of the ball. The secondary, which in a game that you give up 237 yards, why are we sitting here talking about the secondary? But Kyler Gordon has looked awful. I know you said you saw quite a few negative plays from Brisker. Obviously, they're both rookies, and it's a tough learning curve getting into the NFL from the college level. And then, to factor this in, Jaquan Brisker plays in a conference that is 60% run, right? And then I didn't think about this, but Kyler Gordon came from Washington. And I know 1 year isn't a tell-all, be-all, and obviously he's just one player on the team. But if you watched any Washington football last year, like – they were not a good team. So he wasn't playing a lot of competitive football last year. So if you really think about it, I'm not saying he's taking plays off and shit, but his last like serious year was the year before. So maybe he's kind of just in a little bit of a, I guess you would say, a holding pattern, but I need to see something from him because he hasn't showed me shit yet, dude.
His draft pedigree was largely based on 2021. So, Washington might not be very good.
Yeah.
But the film that he put out last year in college is the reason why he was considered such a high draft pick.
He was just that one diamond in a fucking sack of coal.
Yeah. Because, he played the year before, but it was, the COVID shortened season. And he wasn't exactly a starter the whole year. He was in and out kind of. So 2021 was really where he shined. But honestly, if I'm Bears coaches, I'm sitting there saying it's time to get this kid more focused on one responsibility.
Because if you put too much on his plate, think about it like any job you've ever had, right? Like when you train for a job and they train you little by little, right? And they do that on purpose because if you just go into a new job trying to do everything that you possibly can for that job, like you're going to end up being overwhelmed. Imagine that in the NFL, bro. Like, tough.
And the guy, he's capable of playing nickel and outside, but maybe not as a rookie. It might be time to say we need to find someone who can play the nickel so we can just focus Gordon, our second-round draft pick, who we have for the next 3 years after this, and who we're expecting to be, a stalwart of this defense. We need to make sure he is getting valuable developmental reps the rest of this year at one spot so he learns it and he can hit the ground running next season. And he's not getting mixed up with what his assignments are. And playing nickel's it's a monster. It's a beast. There are a lot of run fit responsibilities,
motion and all that,
a lot
dude,
of different keys and triggers that you have to be reading constantly. And I just want to see the kid play and succeed somewhere right now, because even Daniel Jones was looking for him when he needed to throw the ball. He's like,
even when he was running the ball too.
Yeah.
One thing I'll say in Kyler's defense is did not take any plays off. He was failing, but he was failing at 110%, and then laid a nice piece of lumber on Tyrod Taylor, sent him to the gulag real quick, and then
was lucky he didn't get flagged for
helmet
on that one.
But like the inner meatball in me, which is like the same inner meatball in me that was like the Trevathan hit on Devontae Adams was a clean hit, which it was never. Like you would have to literally be Ray Charles to call that a clean hit. I would say he still gave us the best of what he had, but his best clearly wasn't good enough today. But forced a fumble, just happened that Moreau was out of bounds. So it was just really the case of the ball not falling your way. And then when the ball finally did fall our way at the end of the game, what do you have, 16 seconds left? No timeouts?
Yeah.
You got to go 85 yards. It's tough task, tall ask, and it's unfortunate because we've beaten the Giants 3 out of the last 4 times, and each of those games have been equally as weird. Like this game is a game that honestly at halftime, dude, I was like, I think I need to take a quick 15 just to like be awake for this second half, because it was a fucking snooze fest, dude. Like luckily the Ravens game I had on the second screen, and I always got Red Zone going. But yeah, there's a certain point where as Bears fans, we just want to tune in on Sunday and be like, this is good football that we're watching. And it always just a win's a win. We find 4 yards in a cloud of dust and we win ugly. It's like, no, dude, just let it be fucking easy for one time in our life, right?
Yeah. Well, and as someone who was saying our last show, the run game's working. Keep using it until it's not working. It wasn't working today. And I mean, I don't think by statement there was a reason to say, so you keep doing it all game. You got to adapt and adjust as the league adapts and adjusts to you. Yeah. And it was not working at that same efficiency today, which is predictable. I mean, running at that type of efficiency clip is unsustainable in general, but they didn't do enough to get away from it, to build off of it, they did a little to build off of it with some of the shots that they took downfield off play action. But
yeah, and Fields had a beautiful pass to Mooney. That was one of his best passes of the season. Probably, I don't even know what to say. One of them. It was his best pass of the season.
His pass to Pettis was special. Pettis was special. The one that got dropped. That was a special throw, and it just did not. He didn't come down with it. I mean, it wasn't an easy catch, but it hit him in the hands before the DB got his hands in it, and you should be making that catch. Which is what we say about like people making plays for their quarterbacks. Just not something we've seen this year.
2 things. It goes back to what you were talking about with depth, right? Like a lot of these players on our team are depth players, and they are starters on our team. You know what I'm saying? So that's tough. Aaron Rodgers just got sacked as you were talking, so I don't know if you saw me laughing, but I did want to say this. Another game where the backup quarterback is now out, Brian Hoyer, out of the game. So
really,
it's a weird time right now.
Bailey Zappi time, baby.
Yeah, Bailey Zapp, from fucking Western Kentucky. But that was weird let's talk about that too, because we talked about the element of the unknown for us, right? We have to be unpredictable and do stuff that hasn't been seen on tape before. So talk about the Giants. They adjust, right? Jones goes down, Tyrod Taylor goes down. No third quarterback. There used to always be a third quarterback on NFL teams. There are no longer. And nowhere on our fucking mind did we think that we were going to see this today, but we see Saquon Barkley, Matt Breida, and I don't know who the third back was, but it was peak like Ronnie Brown era football. Like it was
Yeah.
beautiful to see. Unfortunately, it was against our team, but like what the fuck is going on? Where it's just like you have Daniel Jones out there. You basically have a power play, and they're gashing us for. They must have been getting like 6, 7, 8 yards a carry when they switched over to the no quarterback package. That was very, very disheartening for me to watch.
Same here. It was. I mean, you got to stop that. Like you know what's happening. Like you have some semblance of an idea what they're running each play, and you still can't stop it. That sucked to watch flat out. Ultimately, I think my main thought coming away from this game more than anything is that the Bears coaching staff lost the chess match today.
Yeah, so I was sitting there in the third and fourth quarter, and they just kept going over. They kept panning over to Brian Dayball and Wink Martingale, and I'm just like, those sons of bitches. Like they are good coaches. They did their thing today, and Getsy needs to prove to us that he is an offensive coordinator that is worthy of calling games in this NFL because he's so far given us absolutely nothing to see, right? You look at the season for what it is. Week 1, rain game, can't really do nothing about the play calling. Just go out there and find yards and score points. Week 2 against the Packers, you play the game not to get killed, you still basically get killed. Third game, not much going offensively. What was it, like 70 yards for Fields?
Yeah.
Like you get a lot on the ground from Herbert. He carries the load. You find a way to win that one. And then this game, almost it's just like one or the other, right? Fields plays a better game. Rushing game isn't as good, but you can't score and you can't finish drives. That's where I really thought that if we could get a special teams turnover, or a defensive turn, or a special teams touchdown or a defensive touchdown, dude, we're winning this game. And they just weren't able to do it, and it sucked. We come out on the wrong side of this one.
Yeah, I mean the lack of a single touchdown, just you were in the red zone 3 times in the first half, I believe.
Yeah.
You can come away with a single touchdown. And it's
They
like
were
every
such
time they
sad
entered the red
drives.
zone, it's just run, pass, run, pass, run, pass. And it's uninspiring. You know, it makes you think that they don't believe that their offense can be trusted to do anything. So they're just trying to keep them from messing up the game.
You know, that's a great point. And then too, like I had this conversation about NIU with a buddy yesterday, and it's like you played on a football team, right? When stuff isn't going your way, but it's not like necessarily on the players, right? Like it's bad coaching decisions. It's they're doing run, pass, run. This is a Bears box score game log. Run, pass, punt. Run, pass, field goal. Run, pass, punt. Right? There's no fucking variation in it, and it's like you almost just it's like the James Franco meme with the guillotine, like first time, right? You know you're walking out there to get slaughtered.
Yeah.
And yeah, coach, sure. We'll do our job. I made a perfect example of this at the end of the game when Trenton Gill had to punt the ball in arguably one of the saddest punts in NFL fucking history. But Trenton Gill, being the dog that he is, goes out, does what he does, pins him on the one, right? I thought we were going to get a fake right there. After seeing a fake this morning in the Vikings game, I was like, well, maybe they were up this morning seeing what was going on in that game. Maybe they'll run a fake there. They didn't, but at the end of the day, as a coach, all you can do is ask your players to execute. And as a player, you need your coach to put you in the best position to win. And I'll be the first to admit it. I was way too quick to suck Eberflus dry and just give him all the credit in the world over like a quick start, a great preseason, a couple catchy quotes and some inspiring stuff. But even he looked lost on the sideline today. And it was just a scary game as Bears fans, knowing that like Dude, we haven't played anyone yet, and we have had some very ugly football in front of our eyes.
Yeah. One of the things that really, really stood out to me was the end of the first half. The Bears had possession where, going to try to go for points, which I love. They had 40 seconds.
Dude, we didn't even get a
timeouts.
pass attempt off on that drive.
No, yeah. Oh, so they didn't get one off, but they had 3 called passes, right? And Fields was just under pressure right off the snap on all 3 passes.
Yeah. Instant rollout, yeah.
When a good defensive coordinator like Don Martindale, Wink Martindale is one of the best defensive coordinators around as far as I'm concerned. He is a mad scientist. He does crazy stuff out there, and he reads your offense like a book a lot of the times. And he brought some pressure. He didn't bring pressure on every down. He confused the offensive line on every down as to who was coming from where and on assignments. But a good defensive coordinator, when he knows the Bears are in passing downs, is killing them. The Bears cannot block it up on passing downs. And then too discouraging. It's like, how are they ever going to get some successful passing on passing downs when every good D coordinator they're going against is just killing them in these spots?
And then to double down on that statement, here's my part on it. Justin Fields holds on to the ball longer than anybody does in the NFL. And he's been known as, at least by most people that, watch the All-22 and stuff, as a one-read guy. So it's like, if you're blitzing, one of 2 things is going to happen, right? You're either doing your sack dance 7 yards in the backfield, or the reverse end of that spectrum, Fields is 7 yards down the field. And I think we saw a decent amount of Fields being able to escape and his escapability. But again, we go back to what we don't want to see, and we don't want Justin Fields looking like he's running for his life, which today it wasn't running out of I want to run. It was running out of I have to run, so it was a little bit different. You want to see more designed runs, especially when blitzes are coming. And it's like, if you have a quarterback that can run RPOs, why don't we see more RPOs? That's another thing too. I don't understand why we don't see any RPOs.
I think a lot of that really comes down to there's 2 things with Fields that really limit the RPOs. One, coming out of college, especially, was his release. He has that elongated release. It's similar with Russell Wilson. He's not the best at RPOs because he's not a quick passer. Everything is just a little bit. It takes a half second longer. And the other aspect is really just he processes stuff a little bit slower. Or I don't want to say slower. He's that deep ball hunter, and that's not what the RPOs are. That's not what he excels at. And it's not really what I'm getting at is how many short passes have we seen off the mark from Fields? Intermediate and deep, he's on the money consistently. Short is something that his footwork, his mechanics, it's all some stuff they're trying to work through. And it's stuff, if you can hit 20, 30, 40 yards on the money, you can hit 0 or 3 on the money. It's just you need to work through it, and you need to get the reps in on it. Even at Ohio State, he struggled with the short stuff, the short accuracy. And it's stuff that we're still seeing them clean up. They worked on his mechanics, his footwork a lot this offseason, and they're still trying to get it right. And you can work on it all offseason all you want. If you're not getting live reps of it, it's never going to translate. So it's stuff that it's frustrating to see still off the mark with a lot of it, but I think it's something that is getting better. And as far as the pressure stuff, I was encouraged to see him step up in the pocket a few times this game.
Yeah.
And then
he had a couple good first down
most
runs.
of them he ended up running through the B gap and taking the yards on the ground. But the fact that he's starting to see that as an option as opposed to bailing out the back is big to me. That's where you find some real opportunities to go deep downfield, was when you learn to step up in that B gap.
Yeah, and I think looking forward towards the rest of the season, obviously we don't want it to be the preferred way of moving the ball down the field, but up to this point, he's looked better when he runs the football. He's been more decisive of when he runs the football. And I think if you look at the film from his rookie season to just 4 games through this season, there's a lot more positive plays in the running game than there were last year. So obviously, he's not a fucking running back, but that is positive in his game. And then the passing game, he needs to just continue to just chip away, right? Like today was a step. It wasn't backwards, it was forwards, but you want to be able to find the end zone. You want those like confidence builders. Like you want to find touchdowns. You want to find deep passes down the field because anybody can throw. Well, I say anybody, but like as you just stated, it's easier for him to throw 40 yards down the field as opposed to 5. But me and you could go put on the jersey right now, throw a 5-yard slant to Darnell Mooney and let him do the rest of the work, right? But Justin Fields is an accomplishment-based guy, right? And he wants to continue to get better in everything that he does. And I think he's got to be driving himself absolutely bananas right now because he at no point, and he's always been the man, right? He's always been the man. Like in the 50 Cent song said, in high school, you used to be the man, homie. The fuck happened to you? Right now, that's the stage that we're in. And again,
he's always been the man behind Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, well, Trevor Lawrence turned the ball over 4 times today, so at least he was the man in that aspect today. But
so if you don't know the story there, they grew up about 20 miles apart in Georgia.
Yeah,
Lawrence was always like the top guy, and Fields wasn't considered a top guy until like his junior year of high school. And then he crept up the boards and became the number 2 quarterback with Lawrence as the 1. He even surpassed Lawrence at one point in high school and then fell back down before they started their college careers. And Lawrence won the Natty his freshman year. And then Fields got to the Natty his senior or junior year. And like they were always neck and neck with each other.
Yeah. Dude, I remember that night. Justin Fields was already on the Bears before he was on the Bears in my eyes because when I saw that they were playing Clemson, I put a lot of money on Ohio State that night, and I was like, they were like plus 200 or something, and they just clapped the fuck out of them. But I think right now, as Bears fans, let's take a step back. Let's realize, right, like we're not going to be contenders this year. That was never going to be the case. And as a franchise, we need to figure out what we have in Fields. And one thing that's not going to get us there is tight end screens and bubble screens and bullshit and whatever the fuck we're calling on offense right now, right? We've said that, and I asked Rocky when I did my live show this week over at Fatty's, I said, would you rather throw an interception and learn something or just put the ball in your running back's gut? And from a quarterback, he said, I would rather throw an interception and learn something. So take chances, especially in those games like the Packers game the second time around, the Bills game. Next week against the Vikings, I want to see deep shots. I want to see them take chances because right now we're almost playing in an offense for 4 quarters of a game in an offense that's designed to be ran when you're just trying to get a couple first downs to close out a game, right?
Yeah.
That's what it really looks like with the offense that we're being presented week in and week out.
Well, and this, like I'm with you. I want to see more deep shots. I want to see more passing. I want to see more opportunities for it. But the rational side of me says, how the hell are they going to block for a deep shot?
Yeah,
I don't trust this O-line to block anything, and then you're just getting Justin hit 20 times a game.
But wait, Quentin, that's where the rollout comes in. Rollout. This is the rap edition of Bears on
So a rollout works great, but you start doing it too much, and they start reading it. They start knowing it's coming. Especially, I mean, at this point, I need to see some serious scheming from Getsy coming up here.
Yeah,
it's like today he lost the chess match embarrassingly to a very, very accomplished D coordinator. Next week, old friend alert, Ed Donatel is the Vikings D coordinator. Longtime Vic Fangio guy, runs Vic Fangio's system. Very experienced guy. He hasn't had success as a D coordinator as much as an assistant under Fangio, but like I trust that he is a smart D coordinator who's going to read a limited offense pretty well. And Getsy needs to step up his planning, his game plan, and what he's trying to do to match that and really stop playing checkers and start playing chess with these guys who he's going up against. Because the next week, they got Ron Rivera in Washington. Rivera is as good as they come, And the very next week after that,
God, that's going to be the worst game.
They're going to Foxborough the week after that. Bill Belichick ain't taking it easy on anybody with his defense. That they're going to make it as hard to do as anything. Getsy needs to stop playing checkers and start playing chess with these guys.
Yeah, and I think, too, he needs to just have a look in the mirror like, look, dude, if I don't figure it out, I'm going to be back as a quarterback's coach or a fucking quality control guy, right? Like, just as much as all these rookies and all these young players are fighting for that opportunity to make a name in the NFL for themselves right now, Luke Getsy should keep that same energy and try to channel that into, like, I need to get the most out of this team. Because no matter which way you look at it, right, we're not a 30-point-a-game team, right? But if we can get somewhere in between 21 to 24 points a game on average, right, we're probably...
Oh, man, I've been saying that since 2001.
Yeah. I don't even have the stats in front of me, but if I looked, I'd have to guess and say we're probably between, like, 13 and 17 points a game on average each game, which it's great for your defense. It's awesome for your defense, but for your offense, you're not going to win as many games as you'd like. But one thing I wanted to bring up was, so I see your do it for the Flus comment.
Yeah, I threw that on there before the game, and now I'm regretting it.
Yeah, but I saw a blue checkmark guy, one Jeremy Layton, calling for Flus's job in the third quarter of the fourth game. Kind of strange behavior. Thoughts on just like that whole kind of like, let's get rid of it. Like, what are we talking about here?
It's early. I wouldn't be. I mean, well, so this goes back to something that we were talking about in the preview show. Why do you think this guy's more focused on winning than development? Why do you think any head coach is? Because it takes one loss for fans to start calling for your job,
survival.
But it's early. I mean, I don't know if Flus is a guy who's going to lead us to a Bears Super Bowl or not, but I know he's a guy who, at the very least, can be the guy before the guy who's going to build a good culture, the guy who's going to develop,
the guy who knows
the guy who's going to get you to that point where you're saying, we have a real shot at this. I think a few years with Flus is going to be very good for this team. So I'm not interested in calling for his job. I mean, guy's 2-2 on a schedule
on
that
I
thought they'd be 2-2 or 1-3. That's that. Yeah. I think I had him at 2-2, and that's with everything going right. So I think he's exactly where he's supposed to be as far as 4-game results are.
Yeah.
Now, if they stay this passive with all the offensive play calling, if they stay this, I felt like they were waving the white flag at times today. Which if that stays the same, you start to question that more. But it's too early I think it's way too early to start saying this guy's not the guy. Get him out of here, because who's that going to help?
Nobody. So
exactly.
I have a good way for us to close out the show. We'll eliminate the fact that the NFL season is now 17 games, but we'll say this is the end of the first quarter for the Bears season. What's your grade? Go offense, defense, and special teams, because one grade would be too broad.
Offense is a D.
Yeah.
I mean, D plus maybe. If you really want to weigh the run game heavily, a C.
Is it D with like a little elbow to your teacher? Like, look, dude, I'll bring you Taco Bell next week.
Yeah. Like, I mean, the run game has been great, but the run game only matters so much in today's NFL. And unless you can keep running it as efficiently as other teams pass the ball, it's not going to matter. So, which no one's going to be able to do. It's great that they did it through 3 weeks, but
Yeah,
it's not going to
it's
stay
not going to
that
last
way.
all season. Yeah,
Yeah.
eventually it'll get figured out.
They need to get the pass game going. They need to find a way to protect the quarterback because it's just way too often where the pocket is not an option. And honestly, like, they lack talent all over the offense. So, like, if you remember back in like elementary or middle school, they had like the real grade and then the grade for effort.
Yeah.
They're a D with a solid A, like A or B plus for effort. That's where I have them.
Good guy, means well, just not really good at football.
Yeah.
Bunch of those guys on the roster right now.
And then on defense, I mean, I think they're probably a B on defense.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a hard time giving them an A, but like I kind of want to give them an A because they've exceeded expectations on defense. They've played, ball control games that really, really help the defense. And they've held every team to 20 or fewer points except the Packers, I think.
Yeah.
So
and that's just not going to happen.
They've gotten turnovers. They've done what Eberflus, comes here to do, and they're building a culture on the defense that is solid. Like a solid B makes sense to me.
What would you say of the special teams units? Took a little bit of a hit today at the end of today's game.
Between the missed field or missed PATs in the first game and the fumbles today, but then again, they also forced a fumble on special teams that they recovered today. They forced one another time, I think, as well. I mean, I'd B minus. They're not game changing anything, but they're not costing you a lot in the net level either.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Velus Jones
need someone to get Brendan Iambadejo reincarnated.
Yeah, and the moment really hurt, but like also they had a fumble that put him in the red zone today that they recovered on special teams. So it kind of evens out.
Blackwell.
In the total game aspect of it. So yeah, B minus. They're doing their job and they're doing it pretty well aside from Velus today.
Yeah, I felt so bad for him too because he was in his head. If you take yourself into the mind of a Velus Jones, he wanted to crib that, right?
Yeah,
like he wasn't thinking about a damn thing but bringing that one back to the house and got to catch the ball first, then you could take off. But do you have any final thoughts for the 20-12 thriller at MetLife Stadium this afternoon?
Yeah. Bears lost Cody Whitehair today.
I did see that.
He was doubtful to return, so he might be out for a few weeks now. If you want to go back and take a look, if you plan on going back and taking a look at this game, look at the difference in the blocking with Whitehair and without Whitehair. And I'm not going to sit here and stand for Whitehair like he's so good. He's solid. He's a good run blocker. He's okay in pass pro. But the real difference is the anchor that he brings. He was able to handle Dexter Lawrence, who is a mammoth of a human being, today while he was still in there. And once he left, you saw a lot of plays where, and Dexter Lawrence isn't known as a pass rusher. He's really a run stuffer. But especially in pass pro, there were plays where they had Lucas Patrick on him one-on-one, and Lawrence just tossed him. There were plays where they had Mustipher on Lawrence one-on-one, and Lawrence just tossed him. Patrick and Mustipher could not handle that size that Lawrence has, that power that he has, and they really missed Whitehair's anchor. It'll be interesting to see how that goes going forward because the Vikings have some size on the interior. The Commanders have some nasty athletes on the interior.
On the D-line.
The Patriots have some solid size on the interior. Like, they're going to shade these guys away from Tevin because Tevin's the only guy who has an anchor that can match those guys on the O-line now. And I don't know what the answer is there either. I mean, Borm's played a lot of guard. I don't know if he has enough anchor to handle those guys, but maybe you put Borm at left guard and you put Reef over at tackle. I I don't know what the answer is now with Whitehair out, but they got to do something more because that interior pressure was coming straight up on Justin fast after Whitehair left the game.
It's fucking awful. Yeah, there was one where like the pressure literally like the second they called hike.
Yeah.
Lawrence was,
he
just ate
just
Justin Fields
tossed
for breakfast. Yeah.
He tossed Mustafa and was straight on Fields. Like you can't run that. That's what I mean about with the deep shots. They're not there when that's happening. They can't be there. You need a second or two for these routes to progress downfield.
Yeah, for me, I didn't give my grades, but yeah, so offense, D, it's pretty self-explanatory, right? Like we're probably bottom 5 units in the offensive categories. Well, we're probably last. We're probably last in every category, but
passing offense is probably an F, even though today they were better than they had been.
Yeah, Justin Fields hit his over. Granted, it was the lowest over-under in the history of over-under betting on quarterbacks in the NFL, but he hit it. And defensively, I'll say B. I like what we've seen out of the defense, and they've kept us in almost every single game. And as a Chicago Bears fans, there's death, taxes, and there's a good defense on the Bears. There's a few years I can remember in the last 10 that we haven't had a great defense, but a majority of my entire life, it's always been about us getting stops on defense, creating turnovers, and then letting everything else feed off of that. Special teams, I'll go C. Just kind of mid. Like we've missed some kicks, we've had some fumbles, we've got some fumbles. No returns, nothing crazy on the year. They've just kind of they've prevented the big one too in that same aspect. So they haven't given up the big punt return or big touchdown return, but they have given up some gash returns. So they haven't been great. They can definitely be better, but they're not what is holding this team back right now. Let's say that.
Yeah.
As far as this week goes, we'll be back with you guys in the middle of the week to get you ready for another divisional matchup, a matchup against Kirk Cousins, a guy that puts tinfoil under his steak when he puts it on the grill. So not a man.
Cousin.
Not a man, just a guy. Just a dude.
Kirk's cousin is the best nickname I've ever heard of for him. It's just like, oh, that guy's Kirk's cousin. Okay.
Just switch the S.
He's that guy that you don't quite know, but you kind of know. Like, yeah, that's Kirk's cousin.
Dude, I can only imagine he has zero fun at parties. Fuck Kirk Cousins. Greg Joseph cost me a spread today. But
there should be no surprise he won in London today because he went to go see like Big Ben yesterday and like the bridges falling down and see the Imperial Guards. He was just getting off on it.
Well, and you know what too, though. So you know how I watch a lot of soccer. So the team that they played stadium at, or that was the worst sentence in the history of my podcast career. Let me bring that back. Tottenham Hotspur, right? That's the stadium that they played at. Tottenham Hotspur is a soccer team in the English Premier League. They like hung out with them. Like they've done this before, like multiple times. So like that Minnesota Vikings home away from home is Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I'm sorry, I'm trying to say it the right way. Tottenham. Because if you say Tottenham, you're getting cooked for it. But yeah, I don't know. It's like a dome-ish kind of stadium. It's their spot. They've won out there a few times already. And I saw an interesting nugget, too. When the Packers go out there next week, so they also play at Tottenham now I'm just saying it like a jag-off. Tottenham Hotspur. It's Tottenham. You just don't say the H. It's Tottenham. When they play there later in the season, actually next week, all 32 teams will have played an NFL game out of the country or maybe just in Europe because I know we have a Mexico game this year. I know there's a Germany game this year, and I think there's a few more England games. Love them. Love waking up to them, but I'm glad that we are not a part of them because they're chaos when your team is involved. Because it's just, as an NFL player, you're so used to we speak of a routine, right? Like Kirk Cousins gets smoked on primetime games. But that 8 a.m. kickoff in London, baby, there's something about tea and crumpets. Gets them going, but yeah, fuck Kirk Cousins. We got, like I said at the beginning of the show, by the time you see our pretty faces on Wednesday, we will have already convinced ourselves that this week is different and we are going to find a way to win a football game. And we'll be back with you guys in the middle of the week to tell you how or why that's going to happen. But we do appreciate you for joining us for today's show. Today we recapped the Bears' 20-12 loss against the New York Giants at MetLife Stadium. an ugly game. I feel dirty after watching it. I think I got to go take a shower. But we got to go, and we're on to Minnesota. Do you know if we're home or away this week?
Road.
Oh, nice. No elements, no bullshit. Go to one of the nicest stadiums in the NFL.
One of the
And
toughest stadiums to win in.
yeah, it gets loud there, but we'll be back here on Wednesday to get you guys ready for how we're going to find a way to win this one. The Bears moved to 2-2 on the season. This was Bears on Tap, presented to you by On Tap Sportsnet. I'm your host, Brandon Suarez. You can follow me on Twitter at BDon300, and you can follow my co-host, Quentin, at ButtKissStats. Be back with you guys later in the week. We appreciate you for joining us, and bear down.
Bear down.